The next step in my 69 Chevelle project was to convert from drum brakes to disc brakes. And I've got the passenger side completed. The kit comes from a place up by Seattle called Scarebird, and it includes, you have to order parts from, well, the rotor is the rear rotor of a 79 Trans Am, and the caliper is for a 69 GTO, and so are the brake pads. But it looks like a pretty nice fit. It's an interesting way of doing things. But when your total cost is only about 300 bucks, you know, compared to the normal cost of a disc brake conversion, I think that's very reasonable and worth a little bit extra effort rounding up parts. But it's going to work out fine. So let's go ahead and look at the driver's side. I haven't taken the drum off it yet, and we'll just show you how to disassemble the drum and how to assemble the new disc brake conversion. So the first thing you want to do is you just want to grab your channel locks and get rid of that spindle nut dust cover. Pops right off, and then you got a bunch of grease on there to deal with. No big deal. All right, the trick, as you can see, was to get that pick deep inside that baby, and then you got something to work with. Little leverage, that always helps. All right, and I want to show you something too about free play. You'll notice that the washer back here, get that pin off of there, it doesn't move. It's nice and stiff, but you still got this free play, and that's important. Now this castle nut, the spindle nut, once the pin comes out of there, it's really just hand tight. You should be able to, yeah, you can just loosen it with your hand. You don't want to torque those things down when you're putting this thing back together. It just needs to be snug, just so the washer doesn't move, but the spindle does rotate. Now, if it does seem to be on there tight, if you need to use a socket, the socket size on this is going to be 1 1/8 inch. Now you're going to want to save the spindle nut and the spindle washer because you're going to reuse it when you reinstall everything. And this is where the pick comes in handy. There we go. Here comes your bearings and your washer. Now that that's done, you just wiggle this hub a little bit, pull on it, give it some persuasion, and it should come right off. There you go. And now's the time, of course, you want to clean this part up, check out the bearings, check out the race, see if, not just see if they need to be replaced, you probably really just should replace them. It's cheap insurance. And it just amazes me how easy these drum brakes come apart. Spring's already off, and the thing just wants to fall completely apart. Okay, the old drum brakes removed, and now you've got 3 bolts. They're 3/4 inch, and the one on top, a little trickier, it's got the metal tab pounded over to lock that bolt in place, or that nut. So you're gonna have to stick something in there and pound it back the other way to free that up to loosen it. So let's get to that. Now, after bending those tabs back, I realized that that one is not 3/4 inch like the other two. It's actually 15/16. So I don't know why they did that, but they did. So let's get that backing plate off of there. Okay, so this is the spindle steering knuckle, all cleaned up and repainted and ready for the application of the new disc brake conversion. Now, I've ordered the kit off of Scarebird, and it comes with the conversion plate right there, the hardware. And that rotor is off a 79 Trans Am rear rotor. It's designed to fit that particular plate. And then the brake calipers and pads are for a 69 GTO. And it fits together really nicely. And Scarebird package, I think I'm into it probably 300 bucks for the whole thing. And it just snaps right in place. Let's give it a go. And you probably already knew this, but it's worth repeating. You're going to reuse your old washer and castle nut for your bearings. And the rule of thumb when you're tightening up your castle nut is that you want it to have play, free roll, but when you get down to it, you want your washer to just be snug, not too tight, but just where it doesn't turn. Almost, it's hand tight really. And that looks like the spot right there. Okay, castle nut secured. Then I just slid the rotor plate right over that. And now it's time to install the calipers. All right, calipers and new pads are on. And the last thing to do before putting the tire and wheel back on is put on the new brake line. And it's always a good idea to, let's focus that. It's always a good idea to focus that. It's always a good idea to have new banjo nut washers. These came with them. If they don't, make sure you go get some new ones.